time has come for the webinar, and it's my pleasure to welcome you all here because it's the very first webinar of Lossless. My name is Monica. I am the CMO, and together with us, I also have Domantas, our CTO. Hi, Domante.
Hey everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and well. Awesome.
Okay, hey everyone.
Awesome. You probably are surprised to see me instead of Dominika is here today. I'm very sorry to say that unfortunately he fell ill, so I will be his stand-in. I will fill in his part in the entire webinar today. But yeah, like I said, I am the CMO. I have started with Lossless back last year. And since the very first day, it was a tremendous journey and still is, because I love the team that we have here and the dedication to our goal of bringing security to Web3. Domante, do you want to do a small intro as well? What you do at Lossless?
Yeah. So I'm Domantas. People usually just call me Dom. So I'm the tech lead here at Lossless. What I do here is architect our front end, back end, and just in general product system. I work on doing the research and development part of finding these, things we should be working on. And basically, I see my job as looking for ways we can solve this security problems that we have in crypto space.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And same for me as well. That's why it's a joy to work with Lossless every day. But yeah, let's actually kick off from some general things, the agenda for today. So first things first, we will start from the promised overview of the security field in Web3. We'll be sharing some data, some insights in what is happening at the moment. So where is security generally going in the crypto space, basically. We'll also have a Q&A session at the very end. All of you who are attending this webinar are supposed to see a Q&A button at the bottom. If you want, during the webinar, you can ask questions there simply by writing them, or at the very end, you will be able to raise your hand, a button which you also have at the bottom. And if you press it at the very end, we will be able to unmute you and you will be able to ask the question through the microphone, if that's what you want. We will try to answer your questions if you leave them in the box for us during the webinar as much as possible. Do apologize immediately if that won't be possible during all the information flow and everything, but we will try to address them either during the webinar or at the very end. Also, I want to ask you to stay throughout the entire webinar because there's going to be a gift, a reward at the very end for those who seek to protect their smart contracts. So after let's say the general piece of the webinar, the microphone will go to Domantas to share more technical info. And also we'll have a practical session on how smart contracts are monitored and how they can be protected. And then we'll have the Q&A if there will be any questions. Then without further ado, let's kick off with the webinar, and I will start sharing my screen. Domante, do tell me when you're able to see it.
I can see it.
Okay, yeah. Great. So let's start from here then. So we called this webinar Monitoring and Securing Smart Contracts, and at the very end, we added a how-to part, because we're not here just to share with you general information which is available just through some clicks while you do some search on Google and so on, but we actually have an efficient way how monitoring can be done, how you can prevent threats, and how you can actually take action when exploits are somewhere at bay and you want to stop them. But of course, who are we to speak of such a field? Who is Lossless? What is Lossless? And why do we have this information and the capacity to talk about it? So we are the ones who are trying to restore trust in Web3 security. I believe I'm not overstating this based on all the conditions of the market at the moment and the recent events with Genesis, with FTX, with Voyager, and so on. So trust is definitely lacking at the moment, and that's one of our priorities, one of our goals. What we do is we build security solutions for the entire space, for the entire industry. We have a total of 5 of them. And what we do is we actually have multiple, sorry, back on that, we'll have a video which talks about tools. But yeah, the goal is to provide security solutions to various projects, businesses, companies in this space. And in this way, not only protecting the projects themselves, their founders, their teams, and the assets, but also at the very end, protecting the users of the projects, the holders of the tokens, and simply fans and communities who are in love with those projects which are in the space. We ourselves have an entire ecosystem of partners who are working with us to help us reach such a field, to reach the goals that we have set for ourselves. To this day, we have more than 80 partners, so 80 plus, and you can see most of them here. So names like DAO Maker, CDFi, Unicrypt, our most recent addition to the partners, Harmony Protocol. Also on Monday, we announced that Elysium Chain, which belongs to Vulcan Forge, is also becoming our partner, our client. So this ecosystem is simply spreading, and it's growing in number, and also our outreach in the entire space is doing the very same thing. Moving forward, a small video to quickly showcase our tools that we have. So first things first, we have a tool called Aegis, and what it does, it monitors smart contracts and helps you prevent the threats. The protocol allows you to restore stolen funds during hacks and exploits. We return them to the actual owners. The token relaunch toolkit is meant to relaunch tokens which have experienced a hack, an exploit, and they want to do an automatic relaunch. The minter allows you to mint any currency on 6 supported chains and do it free of charge, also with a protocol integration. And wall protection is one of the easiest ones. It provides you a security on the project's wallet. We call them walls, it allows you to place 2 types of protections, basically. One is to whitelist wallets, so wallets which are allowed to receive funds from the project wallet, and also withdrawal limiting. So you basically set an amount of funds which can leave the wallet per transaction. So we have 5 tools in general, which are live. We're working on updating them and developing additional features for them. But the core thing to mention here is, for a project which has been in the market for around 1.5 years, having 5 tools live and also having success cases to follow them, I believe is a very, very good job. But going to why we're doing this, why we are in the security area of Web3, we see challenges. It's not just about the current environment of the entire space, why we're doing this. Basically, we can see through our multiple talks with various projects, especially the ones which are just about to launch into the market to release their cryptocurrency, they do not yet see the priority, like the security field, or securing and protecting what you have inside your project is not yet at the priorities top list. Unfortunately, that is the truth of today, and we're working hard on changing that. Talking with projects and explaining to them why this is so important. But usually when you talk security, nobody thinks that it's going to happen to them, and it always comes back to you during this any type of exploit, be it small or big, silly or serious. But yeah, it's not yet a priority, though it should be. Another thing to mention is that it used to be very much about auditing only. So every time once you would go into a community, you would see that members of the community are asking, so who has been auditing you? Is it finished? What's the status? And it's like a box that had to be ticked. So do you have an audit? Yes, we do. Here you can check the report, and that's it. And it sort of meant that the project is secure, it's protected, it's fine to be a community member and to be part of it. However, that's not the case anymore, especially today. And one more thing to mention is that we participated in an event yesterday, and I really liked how security was, how it was brought into the general narrative of the crypto space. And by saying where the crypto space is, if you would put it in a timeline, in like an age gap, let's say. So you could call it even a baby. It's not even a teenager yet, it's a baby. So what you can say about the security field, it's practically even younger. It's in the very beginning of being developed. So that's one of the things that makes it challenging to bring forth your solutions, since you have to build a very serious basis for trust in order to bring your solutions forth and make the project believe that your tools can actually protect them from the events which are happening in the space. So these are some of the challenges that the security field is currently experiencing, and we can also back it up by numbers. It's a very tough situation. So, for example, in 2020, we lost almost $4 billion to various hacks and exploits. In 2021, that number grew to $10 billion. And this year's first 3 quarters, we saw a number of $2.6 billion. You can check all that information in DeFi Yield app. They have a database called Rect database, and all those numbers with dates and everything are there, but we will see what will happen once the 4th quarter ends and what will be the total of this year. But the core message of these numbers is that since security is in a very young stage in Web3, our problem is that we do not have the luxury of picking security solutions protection anyway, because there's just so few of projects who are building any type of solutions. So everybody is talking how security is in the spotlight and how we have to do this, but numbers show that the hacks are not only increasing in amounts of how many attacks we see, but it also increases in the amounts stolen and in the sophistication level as well. How much homework the hacker does today in order to make an exploit, a hack happen. We can see of some numbers from the 3rd quarter that during each of the 3 months we saw more than 30 attacks, and you can see also on the right the millions lost, but we can only again see these numbers and then go to these projects and ask, so what were your security solutions? Maybe you want to work with us in order to amplify it and so forth. But basically what these numbers tell us is that there are multiple vulnerabilities. They still need a solution, a proper one, and this is where we are directing our work and our solutions that we build. Just some of the most significant hacks from this year that you can see. The interesting part here that you might notice is that 3 of these biggest hacks that happened are all bridges. So bridges have been at this spot of being attacked multiple times this year. It's usually every time a hack would happen, you would most probably hit the spot by saying that it was probably a bridge. For example, Harmony Protocol, they also have their bridge Horizon, which was also hacked, and we were successfully able to retrieve a currency of 78 million tokens from that hack with the help of our lossless protocol. So even though there was a hack and it was a bridge as well, but we were able to successfully retrieve that money and save the amount for the token owners. Yeah, so just again to show the enormous amounts of money stolen, and that basically well, security again is at a very tough spot, and that's what we have to work with, but also the hackers themselves are becoming more and more greedy, sophisticated, and they are earning money from this, what they're doing. But where I'm leading all of this, so we've established the fact that the security field is at a tight spot. We are not yet at the spot at the place where we can pick any solution that we would like to apply. But like I mentioned at the very beginning, we have 5 tools, and one of them is exactly the one that speaks about the topic of this webinar. So it's smart contract monitoring, and it's also about preventing threats, preventing hacks before they even happen. That tool for us, we called it Aegis. The name comes from the Latin language. It basically means a shield, being under the protection of someone very powerful, and it directly explains what our tool does and what you can do. We also call it, in very simple terms, the so-called antivirus system for your smart contracts, or I like to call it also the all-seeing eye, because, well, monitoring. But just following quickly of why this tool specifically and what kind of powers lie with it. So Aegis, what it does, it can scan all mined block transactions, and it can spot the malicious ones in it based on many parameters that are set. Also, in the future, people will even be able to set certain events that they want to track with their smart contracts. So what is happening? But you can do it without an integration, which is the most important part. We noticed in the beginning when we were working with the protocol only that once we come with a solution that needs to be integrated into a smart contract, so especially for those who are already established projects or already with a release token, it was something that, of course, they didn't want to do. They did want the security, but updating a smart contract or especially integrating something in that was a challenge. So Aegis does not require that. It simply is, in simple terms, it's a personalized dashboard where you place your smart contracts. You allow them to be monitored, and you also then are able to be. You need to set real-time alerts. So through where do you want to be informed in case Aegis catches something like an attack happening, a smart contract upgrade happening without maybe your decision or anything of the sort, any type of connections with Tornado Cash and so forth. So like I said, the all-seeing eye. And what it is able to do, it tracks multiple things. So for the time being, right now, it is able to track up to 20 smart contracts, so monitor them at the same time. So not you don't need to like access each and one separately and just check the data, but it does all of that at the same time. And we are thinking of increasing this number in the future as well. Like I mentioned, any addresses that are interacting with Tornado Cash are already in the area of Aegis and they're being monitored. Any third-party smart contract deployments as well. High-risk events, since we have a so-called risk number, which we apply to various events. So you can come and you can see the risk factor being evaluated from 1 to 5, and you will be able to understand clearly if this is something serious or just something that Aegis caught, but you need to decide if it's worth your attention. Flash loans as well. Any known hackers that have a history of acting in a malicious way, and of course any type of interactions that happen with your smart contract, all of them are under the eye of Aegis. And soon we're also, like I mentioned, we're going to be able to track custom events. So you'll be able to pick what you want to track, what you want to see. Also machine learning tracking and TVL tracking as well, which we are highly anticipating. And we know that this kind of feature is definitely going to be very valuable for the projects which are using this tool. But in short, my very last part before I give the microphone to Domantas, we firstly built the protocol, the lossless protocol, the one that is able to restore stolen funds during hacks or exploits, so we return them back. We thought of it as the so-called last line of defense, and it was that way, since once a hack happens, you can come and you can freeze the transaction in order to stop the funds from moving, like for example, to Tornado Cash. And you then are able to investigate, confirm it if it was a hack, and then return the money, the funds. However, we thought that we can make something so much better, so much greater, which would help us to basically be even before all of these events and stop them before they happen. And this is how Aegis was born, and we call it the first line of defense. So it's like it comes like a package in a way. But today we're talking about smart contract monitoring, and so we're addressing the first line of defense. So here at this part, I will give the spotlight and microphone to Domantas, who will share more about the tool from the technical perspective, and also will show you the practical session of how it works in reality. Okay, off to you, Domantas.
Thank you. It was a great presentation. I couldn't have done it better myself. So yeah, I think this is really well explained, but still I'm going to show you a demo because I think it's always easier to understand what's happening just by how it works and what's happening by looking at the thing. So I'm going to start with some slides also. Okay. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see it or not?
Can't yet see the slides. All good. I can see them.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna do a short intro on one of the incident patterns that we follow, because Aegis itself is a monitoring tool that uses quite a lot of heuristics, and what we do internally is we track a lot of incident patterns that we found and learned throughout the time. So I'm going to do a case study on inverse finance and going to talk and show you what happened to them and how you can prevent that from happening on your protocol. And also I'll show you later on how Aegis would have prevented that. So how the incidents usually work is that they start with the first phase, which is funding. Before the hacker is able to do anything, he needs some tokens, some cryptocurrency to pay the gas for. Usually, exploiters, they don't use centralized exchanges for this because, you know, centralized exchanges, they require KYC, and it's really easy to trace down that, you know, person later on. Even though I believe there's plenty of ways to like fake that KYC, but it's still way harder to do that than to use Tornado Cash. And that's what the most and the majority of the exploiters do. They use Tornado Cash to get some Ethereum, in this case, to have some money to pay for the gas, because yeah, the whole exploit and everything will require the gas. So this is the first step. Usually, this is if you would open a majority of the exploits on Etherscan, and if you would look at the exploiter's wallet, you would see that one of the first transactions that happen in that wallet would look like this one. So in this case, the inverse finance exploiter, he funded himself with 1 ETH from Tornado. The second step is malicious contract deployment. So if you want to do an exploit that involves like flash loans or something, some sort of loops or anything that requires computation, you cannot do that with just an externally owned account. You have to deploy a smart contract that would, you know, do some logic. So maybe you can drain only a small amount of money on one iteration, but using a smart contract, you can loop that and, you know, keep draining the funds out of that exploitable protocol. So for that, the malicious actor, he needs to deploy a smart contract. And that usually is the second step in this incident pattern that I'm talking about. The third step is attack. So now the explorer, he prefunded his account with some untraceable Ethereum. Then he deployed a smart contract. Now he's calling a function on this smart contract that is called start. Not very innovative, but he just starts an attack and basically this transaction both starts and concludes the attack. Some of the attacks sometimes can span multiple transactions. This one took, I think, only one transaction, and yeah, this is how basically the attack happens. You just trigger a function on your malicious smart contract. And this is inside of that transaction. You can see that it did a lot of movement of funds. One of the more interesting things is that you can see the explorer did get 27K of BTC from Aave using a flash loan. So basically, he most likely used those funds to manipulate, some prices inside of these protocols that you can see in the ERC20 tokens transferred list. And yet, one of the affected protocols was Inverse Finance, and basically he managed to drain quite a lot of money from them just with this one transaction. Then the final step that concludes this incident, and that usually concludes a lot of these incidents because most of them follow this pattern, is money laundering. So once the hacker gets, drains the protocol and gets some sort of token, he usually dumps that token on Uniswap and exchanges it to Ethereum, or maybe he manages to steal directly Ethereum. And then he starts, pumping that cash back to the Tornado Cash, once again, to break that traceability and to not be associated with this incident anymore. So here at Laslas, we don't have anything against Tornado Cash. I think it's a cool privacy tool, but we must all agree that it's used by exploiters a lot, and you have to consider that. Okay, so this kind of concludes my slides. I think it's quite clear and quite linear on how these exploits work. So now we're going to jump to the demo, and I'm going to show you how this Aegis tool would have spotted it. One second, I'm going to share another screen now. Okay. Can you see the Aegis tool?
Almost. I can see that started screen sharing. Or just my hotspot. Should be up by now. Oh, okay. We just got word that everything is visible. So go on, Domonte.
Okay, good. So yeah, this is the Aegis. This is the landing page. I think it talks a lot of it covers a lot of points that Monica already covered in her slides. So I'm not going to go through them, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how it works. So here we have the main page, which contains all of the addresses that you might want to monitor. So for example, here you can see that I have Saddle Finance. Actually, I was testing also if Aegis could have prevented that incident. And yeah, it can. I also have Sushi Token, Uniswap Router, and stuff like that. So you can add any sort of contract here. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna add the Inverse Finance contract that got exploited. So adding a contract is extra easy and extra straightforward. All you have to do is just type a title, Inverse Finance in this case, paste the contract address that you want to monitor, and select the chain that you do want to use. So in this case, everything happened on Ethereum. We mostly support EVM-based chains, even though like Harmony and Elysium chains, they aren't like exactly EVM-based chains, but they do support EVM-based chain functionality, so we do support them. And that's kind of it. You add a contract. What happens next is Aegis starts to monitor it, and by monitor it, I mean it starts applying all sorts of heuristics and rules and looking what's happening with it. So we analyze each block and each transaction in that block, and we look at what's happening with this protocol. And if we see something suspicious, we immediately are able to notify a user about it. So because this protocol, Inverse Finance protocol, is not used anymore after the incident, they shut it down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a backtest. Backtesting is basically the same thing that we do live, except that it allows you to travel back to the past and apply those monitoring rules in a certain period of time in the past. So at this point, I'm pretty familiar with this incident. So I know that it happened on June 16. And let's select the date range. The longer the date range, the longer the backtesting might take. So I'm gonna select the exact time so I don't waste your time. So I know that it happened from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And let's select that. And let's kick off a backtest. Backtesting is in progress. So while the backtest is going on, we can look at other parts of the application. So all the findings that we are generating at the moment are being put into two tables, which has suspicious addresses and suspicious transactions. So for example, here you can see that I was testing Saddle Finance, and it was identifying some of the suspicious addresses on Saddle Finance with quite a high risk score. Then the next table is suspicious transactions, which kind of tells you what sort of transactions we noticed that are suspicious. So these two tables are quite related at the moment, and in the future we will be combining them into one just to make it easier to understand what actually happened and which address is related to which transaction. Then we have the API keys. So API keys is just like just a thing that I guess a lot of developers are used to. You can create API key that would allow you to, access all of this data that you are seeing here, but through the API. Maybe you're building some sort of tool that needs, access raw data. You don't need this dashboard, or maybe you want to use the dashboard, but you also want to integrate it into your platform. So API keys help a lot with that. Then we also have the alerts. So alerts allow you to configure where you want to be informed when we find some sort of incident that's related to one of your monitor protocols. For example, I here have Slack connected. So yeah, I am able to identify incidents, and once Aegis is able to identify incidents, and once it identifies it, it will send those findings to the Slack. And now let's get back to the inverse finance. We see that the backtesting is complete, and also what we see here is that we identified 4 suspicious addresses, and I think we can look on Etherscan what sort of addresses we did identify. So as I mentioned, what this backtesting did is that it ran all the rules that we run usually live on each new mine block, but in the past. So basically, it means that if Inverse Finance could have added Aegis monitoring on their protocol, they would have been notified about these incidents. So yeah, and do you see the other tab or just the Aegis tab?
Because of my hotspot, can see much more. I think everything is working properly.
Okay. So then I hope that you can see the Etherscan tab now, and basically what you can see here is that one of the addresses that we identified, this one of the first addresses we identified, is actually a smart contract that was deployed by the Inverse Finance explorer, and that is the contract that was used for the attack. Then we can check another smart contract, not smart contract, but an address that was also identified by Aegis. And by searching for it, we can see that actually the address that we identified is the Inverse Finance exploiter. So these two got a risk score of 3, which we consider quite high. Like the top risk score is 4, which is critical. The 3 is high, and then 2 is medium, and 1 is low. So this got these two addresses got a high risk score. And then you might be interested, what are those two addresses that got a little lower risk score? And actually, after running this, I was curious myself, what are these? And if you would look at one of these, you would notice that this is actually an address that also did quite a lot of transactions with Tornado Router, that also did a smart contract deployment. And after analysis, I kind of realized that this was a copycat attack that basically was running after the initial exploit. So somebody tried to kind of copy the attack and do the same thing that happened initially. So Aegis is able to identify even those cases. On the risky transaction tables, you can see that there was 2 smart contract deployments identified, risky deployments, and those correlate to those two exploiters that deployed smart contracts for executing exploit. And there was also 1 flash loan identified, which happened on the attacking transaction that executed the attack. So if you remember in my slides, I show you a flash loan of 27K of BTC. That's the one that we identified here. And also, of course, once you see stuff like that, you might want to immediately take action. So for that, we have a way to connect your wallet here and immediately take action. And in case your protocol is stoppable, or it has some emergency shutdown or liquidity withdrawal, you can do that. So at the moment I'm on a wrong network, but essentially after I switch to Ethereum, I should be able to read and write the contract. So I can even change the admin or, for example, read some data on the contract. If maybe I'm not so certain this is an exploit, I can just look here and see if it's if any of the data here indicates me about something going wrong. Finally, what we have on Aegis, because it's a tool dedicated for tech teams, for crypto companies, we have a team section that allows you to easily configure your team, meaning that you can invite your team members here. You can assign different roles. I know maybe you want one person to be able to manage billing, but don't want him to do any other changes. Maybe you have a tech lead that should have should be able to manage everything, but should be able to manage billing. So we have roles and everything built in so that it's very easy for large teams to use this. And yeah, I think that kind of concludes everything. Maybe another small note is that today we kind of showcased only one incident pattern that Aegis is able to spot and identify. But there are many more that we do track and do identify. So as Monica said, we are working on tracking TVL and big changes in liquidity. We also are working on tracking custom events. We already have integrated machine learning that is just not in production yet. So we will be using artificial intelligence to identify if these new smart contracts that are being deployed, if they are actually malicious or not, or it will be an improvement or on accuracy of our risk scores. And yeah, I think that's it, Monica.
Thank you so much for such a superb demo. I really love the backtesting feature. I mean, for me, it's mind-blowing, but I'm not a technical person, so anything blows my mind that is able to secure assets and such. But yeah, so guys, thank you so much for watching everything and listening to what we had to say. So that's it for today, for this entire webinar. Again, thank you so much, Domanty, for joining in. And thank you everybody who connected and spared your time for us today to learn more about security and how you can protect your smart contracts. Thank you so much, and let's see you in our future events.
It was a pleasure. Bye.
Bye.